joining today's webinar session run through SI UK. We're really excited to have you following along, and as we go through, the aim is just to give you a really short insight into what SOAS is like as an institution, what student life and community there is, and most importantly, the academic programs and study opportunities that we have available. We'd love for you to interact. You can ask your questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to those as we go through. And if not, we'd love for you to follow up, and you can do that using the emails at the bottom, either directly to myself, you should be able to see it on the screen, or the international office more generally. And you're also very welcome to follow up directly with SI UK, who are hosting today's session and who can support students to apply to a wide variety of excellent universities in the UK. But just before we get started, then, it's probably helpful if we introduce ourselves. So, my name is Laura, and I'm the International Recruitment Manager at SOAS for the Middle East and Africa. So, I'm sure most of the students who are joining us today, you're most likely from the Middle East and North Africa region. So, I would love to hear from you. And if you're joining from elsewhere, then please still get in touch. We have a whole host of colleagues who would love to help you and make sure that you can get the specific advice and tailored guidance that you need, depending on where you're applying from. And I'll quickly pass over now to Amani, who is also on our team and an ex-SOAS student, to briefly introduce herself before we get started.
Hi everyone, my name's Amani. As Laura said, I also work in the same team as Laura as a student recruitment coordinator. I'm also a former student. I graduated two years ago now, in July 2020 with my BA in International Relations. So if you have any questions sort of about the student life, the process of applying, anything like that, feel free to write your question in the chat and we will do our best to help you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Imani. And I guess just to kick off the discussion today, it would be really useful to just provide a very brief introduction to SOAS and the main things that you need to know about us as an institution. So to start right at the beginning, SOAS is part of the University of London Group, which is an overarching umbrella organisation which includes 18 member institutions, and that includes our next door neighbours, which are institutions like UCL and Birkbeck, as well as many others. Our campus, or our sort of main teaching buildings and facilities, are just off of Russell Square, which is in the Bloomsbury area of London, just round the corner from the British Museum, which some of you may know, and close to lots of other instantly recognisable London landmarks. And Oxford Street is also just round the corner if museums and sightseeing are not your thing. The other thing that's really great, in addition to being around the corner from the British Museum, we're also home to our sort of own exhibition space on campus called the Brunei Gallery. And that really kicks off the Museum Mile, which runs all the way from Bloomsbury, where we are, right the way down to the Thames, and includes a collection of about 14 museums and galleries. The other great thing is that we're really well connected for transport, being in central London. So there's lots of tube stops and bus connections nearby. And if you want to escape and explore further afield as restrictions ease, then we're on a direct tube line to Heathrow. And you can also really easily get to national railway stations such as Euston and King's Cross if you want to explore the many towns and cities in the UK that are in close proximity to us and to London more generally. But I mentioned our campus, and our main teaching facilities are located in a little lovely pedestrianised precinct area just off of Russell Square, and there's three main buildings that sort of make that up, those being the Paul Webley wing in the Senate House building. And perhaps if you've done some research on SOAS, you'll have seen some lovely pictures of that bright atrium space that our students can use to relax and to access the student hub and key student support services throughout their time with us. We also have a sort of main college building that's home to things like the Student Union, and perhaps the the best thing, probably in my opinion. And I'm sure if you asked lots of SOAS students, they would say the SOAS library. And that's a really standout facility in terms of the university. It's one of 5 national research libraries in the UK. And that's because it is a really significant collection of about 1.3 million resources. And those all relate to our specialist regions of Africa, Asia, and the Near and Middle East. And we'll come on to talk about that a little bit more in a second. And then I mentioned it briefly, but our third and final building is the Brunei Gallery. That's a really cool space. Not only does it have sort of more traditional lecture hall and teaching spaces, but it's also home to a 2-level exhibition space that you can access for free as a student. I think it's currently hosting an exhibition exploring Iraq's Mesopotamian past through contemporary art, and another one is due to open. And you can also explore the Japanese roof garden on the top of the gallery if you want to escape the hustle and bustle and just enjoy your lunch um, in the peace and quiet. And so I guess at this point it's probably useful to ask Manny, seeing as she's been a student and explored, if she can maybe talk a little bit just about your experience of those facilities, what you enjoyed the most in terms of the spaces and different areas that you can access as a student on campus at SOAS.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as you know, we're situated in the heart of London, so there are so many things for you to do, both on campus and using the SOAS facilities, but also in London in general. And you have the entirety of central London and Greater London at your footstep, which I think is amazing. In terms of the facilities at SOAS, Laura's obviously mentioned a few already. I think once you get into your university experience, you'll find that you'll be using the study spaces a lot, such as the library, which is obviously a great place to just sit down and focus if you have work to do. There are lots of study spaces in the university that you are allowed to talk in. So, for example, if you have presentations to do with people in your class, if you want to sit down and talk to the people on your course about what you're doing that week, there are plenty of spaces to do that within the university. There are also lots of places to relax. If you're having a lunch, if you're going out for the day, we have our JCR, which is our junior common room, which is sort of where the student union is. And there will also always be something that's happening in the JCR, whether it would be someone selling vegan food at lunchtime, if there's an event going on, if there's any sort of campaigns happening, you'll always find it to be a very sort of bustling place. And because it's such a small community, you'll always end up bumping into someone that you know, whether it be someone on your course, someone you met at societies, or even academics within your department or other departments. It's a very welcoming and friendly community.
Yeah.
And ooh,
And
if you
I
wanted
guess,
to,
sorry to interrupt you, Manny, but I guess one of the things you probably should have mentioned with it being a University of London member institution is that not only do students have SOAS facilities, but they can also benefit from facilities in the broader University of London institutions.
yeah, of course. So we've got Student Central right around the corner. So not only do you have SOAS societies that you can join, you also have wider University of London societies you can join. And in terms of sort of study spaces, you can join the libraries of other universities that are part of the University of London. So, for example, while I was a student, I joined the UCL library and the LSE library. And sometimes it's just good to go to a new working environment if you're, in a bit of a rut. It's sometimes good to go somewhere different, and being able to take advantage of the resources that are pretty much around the corner is it's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess if we come on then to talk about academics, which is probably one of the most important things we can discuss when talking about SOAS and what we're about as an institution, for anyone who's just at the initial point of doing their research, I think the main thing to know about SOAS is that we're a specialist institution, and our key specialism within that are the regions of Africa, Asia, and the Near and Middle East. So all of our research, all of our teaching and academic expertise is really focused in on those specific regions. And within that specialism, we offer a wide portfolio of programs across the arts, humanities, and social sciences. And in terms of study levels, that runs all the way from foundation, be that international foundation, or our foundation program that's designed for students who have already done things like A level or IB and maybe got a lower score than expected, or maybe who want that additional year of academic preparation to ground their study, and then all the way through to PhD. So we have a wide variety of programs, and specifically in regard to our international foundation program, I know a lot of the students joining us today are from the MENA region. So if you're pursuing, for example, the national curriculum in your country, studying towards the Thanawiya exam, then our international foundation can be a really good route for you to access not only study at SOAS in terms of undergraduate, but also to progress to a wide range of institutions within the UK. So there's a wide range to suit everybody, and like I said, it really spans all the way from foundation through to research, and all of our programs fall into that particular niche of the arts, humanities, and social sciences. Within that, I think the main thing, and perhaps Amani can speak to this and what it looks like practically in a second, but I think the main thing that really sets SOAS apart in terms of its courses and its academic offering is the sort of focus on interdisciplinary and flexible learning, and importantly, on teaching our subjects from a global perspective. Our academics really focus on that and sort of expanding and moving away from typical, more Eurocentric narratives and really trying to understand our subject areas from the perspective of our key regions and the global south more broadly. So, if you have sort of any questions about the specific subject areas, then the best place to go is our website. You'll find full A to Z listings of what those specific courses and subject areas are. But things that usually come up, and I would say particular strengths of SOAS, are things like development studies, things like anthropology, language. I think one thing you'll find if you look at SOAS's language provision is that all of the languages on offer relate again to our key regions. So be that Arabic, be that Korean or Japanese, or beyond. There's lots of opportunity, whether through your main degree or as an optional module to tap into those different language um, options. And so perhaps, Amani, you could maybe speak a little bit about your study experience, your course, how you found it, and just, yeah, what students could expect if they were to come to SOAS.
Yeah, of course. So I did my BA in international relations. As Laura mentioned, I think one of the biggest drawing factors for me was the non-Eurocentric approach that SOAS takes with the subjects that it offers. When I was applying to my universities, I found that the modules that SOAS offered were a lot more exciting and engaging than potentially other universities who might focus more on British politics or American politics or European politics. I wanted something that was offering something different, and that's why SOAS definitely spoke to me. In terms of the actual degree itself, there are lots of ways that you can sort of structure your degree. So, for example, you can choose to, as if you do a single subject degree, which international relations is, you can choose to take modules from other departments. You can choose to do language modules. These are not things that I personally chose to do just because there were so many modules within my own subject that I was interested in. I think there were too many options for me to
It's a
choose
good
from.
problem to have
A very good
as a
problem to have.
student, yeah.
I personally didn't do it, but I know a lot of people that chose to do modules from other departments. So, for example, they chose economics modules or they chose language modules, and so they combined it with languages such as Arabic or Urdu. And it was a really good way just to broaden their horizons and be able to gain those skills while also being able to get the degree that they wanted, which I really loved.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I guess a question that students might have. Of course, we've got students from all levels who will be watching this or perhaps thinking about SOAS, but if we just stick with undergraduate for a second, I think a common question for a lot of students is things like study abroad opportunities and different ways that they can engage or add to their programs. So I'm not sure if you wanted to speak maybe a little bit about study abroad opportunities that we have at SOAS
Yeah,
currently.
of course. So, if you choose to do your degree with a language, so for example, if you choose to do politics and Korean, you will find that either in your second year or your third year, you will go abroad for the year. So, we have partner universities with the subjects with the languages that we engage in. So, that allows you to do a year abroad somewhere else. If you choose not to and you're taking a language sort of as a module, there might be opportunities to do summer placements abroad. So, for example, you might be able to do a Korean just for the summer abroad. Again, that will depend on the subject that you're taking and the degree that you're taking. Um, yeah, there was something
Absolutely.
else,
So
but I
I think
forgot.
no, I don't know. I think the main thing to say at the moment is in terms of year abroad specifically, like you mentioned, we have that opportunity currently for students who have a language degree and also for students on our LLB with year abroad pathway,
Mhm.
so a specific program. But that being said, we are always looking at ways that we can review that and expand. So do keep an eye on our website for any changes to that. We actually have a question that's popped up, and it's from a student asking about sandwich year opportunities. So, kind of on a similar theme, and could they potentially work for 1 year back in Saudi? And the main thing to say with that is, unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have sort of sandwich years that incorporate professional work experience. But we'll come on to the career service in just a moment, and there's lots of ways that they can help you like Amani said, to engage with things like summer internships and different work experience opportunities that will help you sort of build up experience related to your specific subject. And we've been talking about courses, and we do review our courses. We listen to what our students are saying to sort of make sure that we are providing opportunities and teaching them topical subjects, allowing them to explore pressing contemporary issues and different things like that. And one of the really exciting things we have this year is a brand new program at master's level, and that is our MA in medical anthropology and mental health. So, if that sounds of interest to you, I would really encourage you to head over to our website and find out more. But it's a very unique interdisciplinary program, and what that does is look at global challenges in health and mental health from a range of different perspectives, and something that's even more perhaps more relevant now with as we come out of the pandemic and reflect on all that's happened. I'd really encourage you to go over to our website and you'll find a more detailed program page in terms of the MA Medical Anthropology and mental health program that we have available for our next intake, which is September 2022, which I'm sure will come around very quickly. Time is flying by. And I guess before we move on to our next sort of topic or thing that we wanted to chat through, is just to mention very quickly our rankings. As we mentioned, SOAS is a niche institution, but it does perform very strongly within that niche. So we do currently sit within the top 50 overall in the QS World Ranking subject for arts by subject, sorry, for the arts and humanities, as well as being fifth in the world for development studies specifically, and 16th for anthropology. And if we look sort of more holistically at overall UK rankings, for example, then we're really pleased to feature in the top 40 of UK universities in the most recent Times Good University Guide. But that being said, rankings are not the be all and end all. We hope that they give you a little insight into the strengths and the qualities of our teaching, but we hope that this webinar overall gives you a flavour of what your student experience could look like and all the different opportunities that you'll have access to during your time with us. And I guess we've mentioned before that lots lots of the students on this call are likely international. And for lots of students that move to the UK, it's a huge transition, and rightly there'll be lots of sort of pressing questions at the forefront of students' mind, one of those being accommodation. And so, Amani, I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about accommodation that we have available at SOAS and perhaps your experience throughout your time at SOAS as a student.
Yeah, of course. So there are lots of different accommodation types available depending on your budget and your preferences. There are lots of places you can choose to live. One of the main options is halls of residence, which is where the majority of both, I think, home and international students will choose to stay, just because it does provide that university experience that many students are looking for. At SOAS, we have two dedicated sort of SOAS halls of residence. So for our undergraduate students, we have Dinwiddie House, and for our postgraduate students, we have Paul Robeson House. They're both situated around a 5-10 minute walk away from the King's Cross station, and they're about a 20-minute walk from the SOAS campus. So in very good walking distance and in a very good location to the rest of London. What's really good about halls is that not only are you going to be living with SOAS students, but it does give you that university experience, especially in Freshers Week. It's an excellent way to meet lots of new people that you might not be able to if you chose to live in somewhere else. Apart from just SOAS halls of residence, there are also private halls of residences and also intercollegiate halls of residence. And so intercollegiate is where you choose where you stay in halls for University of London students. And that's really good because it means that you can meet people not only from SOAS, but also from other nearby universities, so such as King's, LSE, UCL. They're all around the corner. It's a really good way to meet other students as well. Depending on your budget type, there are other options that many students choose to do. So, for example, in your second year, you could choose to do a house share and rent with your friends. Many students choose to live in places like Camden because it's in a good walking distance to SOAS. But again, it can completely depend on what your budget is or what your preferences are.
Yeah, and what did you do during your time as a student? What did each year look like for you?
So my first year and my third year were both in Dinwiddie House.
Okay.
That was just really good, just because it was in such a good location to SOAS and also to the rest of London. And in my second year, I chose to live in private halls of residence, a bit further out, still in a good commutable distance, but allowed me to meet people from universities such as UCL and City, people who I probably wouldn't have been able to meet if I was in Dinwiddie House the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the best thing that we can do if you do have any questions about accommodation at this point is encourage you to go online to our website where we have a full list of all the different options that are available. That will be getting updated over the next couple of months as we prepare to open up again for new applications for students who will be coming along in September 2022. But as Amani said, there's lots of options available and they're all within a really good distance, easy distance of SOAS's campus and main teaching buildings. And Amani, you touched on it a little bit as you've mentioned different things in terms of the facilities and accommodation, and that's really getting involved in the SOAS student community and the broader student life on campus. And I guess at this point, it's probably useful to talk a little bit about our community and student life and different ways that you can get involved. But just to give a quick snapshot, generally speaking, SOAS is a bit of a smaller institution compared to some other universities in the UK. We have about 6,000 students in a normal year on campus, and we've been so excited to see them come back and to join us as pandemic restrictions ease and students are able to travel back and to begin accessing more and more in-person opportunities safely and within guidelines. So we've got about 6,000 on-campus students in addition to a really significant cohort of about 4,000 distance learners. Generally speaking, it's about a 50-50 split between undergrads and postgrads, which is really nice. It really helps add a wealth of different backgrounds and experiences in terms of our student body. And about 54% of our students are from overseas. So if you are thinking of joining us from abroad, then you should feel right at home. And if we look specifically at the MENA, some of our largest student populations are from countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. So you'll be right at home no matter where you're joining us from. And there are so many ways to get involved. SOAS students rightly have a really great reputation for being very involved, very active, very passionate about different causes, and there's loads of different ways to get involved in the community. One of those being, Amani mentioned it a little while ago, the Students' Union. There's about 100 different societies, I think, at the last count, that you can get involved in. And Amani, I wondered whether you might want to quickly just chat about different societies or ways that you got involved as a student at SOAS.
Yeah, of course. There are so many ways to get involved. Like Laura said, we have our Students' Union, and they have over 100 societies that cater to pretty much every interest, hobby, or anything like that that you might be interested in. So it can range from, Model UN Society to Pizza Society. I mean, the SOAS Union has everything for you. There are a couple ways I got involved. One of the main things that I did was the SOAS Spirit, which is the university's newspaper. I got involved in the social media team in that. And what's really great about most societies that you'll join is that you don't need to have the experience um, before you start. So even if you're doing something like starting to write for the SOAS Spirit, or if you're choosing to do a sport such as rugby or basketball, you don't necessarily have to have done something like that before to get involved. And it's a really good way to meet people that you might not be able to meet otherwise. They might not be on your course, they might be postgraduate students if you're undergraduate, but it's such a small and vibrant community that it's a really good way to meet so many different types of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned a little earlier with regards to accommodation that it was a really great way to meet people in your first year. But I wondered if you wanted to talk a little bit more about Freshers Week and what that first week was like in terms of transition to university. And especially, I think that's another thing that's at the forefront of students' minds if they're thinking of coming from abroad and studying for an extended period in the UK, for example.
Yeah, of course. I found it, obviously it's going to be quite a big change moving from sort of school to university, but what's really good about Freshers Week, and especially at SOAS, is that they organise so many events for societies or for your departments and things like that. It's a really good way to meet people that are going through the same thing as you. At the end of the day, everyone is sort of in the same boat.
Mhm.
The student union organises loads of events. While it's been in COVID, they've been both a mixture of virtual events and in-person events, so that people are able to meet people on their course, the people at their university in a really good way. Um, yeah, and I think that's yeah.
Yeah, and the really great thing is that we've been able to have that in some form, even throughout the pandemic
Yeah.
and with the transition online. We've still be able to have that and to make sure our students feel welcomed and part of the SOAS community. And I guess one more thing that we can maybe talk about a little is student support. I guess that's a big thing that factors into student life and feeling supported and a part of the community. So I wondered if there was anything in particular you wanted to mention in terms of either academic support that you benefited from during your time as a student, or perhaps in terms of some of the well-being and support services that we have available.
Yeah, so there's both types. There's academic support and sort of the student advice and wellbeing support that you can get. In terms of academic support, what you'll find is that when you begin your studies at SOAS, you are assigned to an academic advisor. This is someone usually in your department. You might not necessarily be taught by them, but there's someone that's an academic in your department. And they're sort of your first point of call for any academic or even personal sort of worries that you might have, and they're going to be the first person that you can go to talk about these things. Um, what's really good is that you'll have the same academic advisor throughout your whole time at university, so you won't have to sort of stop and start with a different person every
Mhm.
single year. You can build up that relationship with your academic advisor, which is really good. And what I found, I think, in my department, and I think this is widespread across the whole SOAS community, is that the academics are super friendly, super welcoming. Um, so they are really easy people to talk to. So don't worry about that.
That's always good.
In terms of sort of other help that you might want to get, we have the student advice and wellbeing group team at SOAS, and they're located in the Paul Webley wing. With COVID, I think they're offering virtual appointments right now as well. And you can go to them with any other issues that you might have if it's more personal. We have counsellors that can help you if you have any issues that might be going through that might be affecting your studies. You can talk to them. And we also have in the Paul Webley wing our careers team. So even if it's not your academic or personal worries, you can go to them for any careers help that you might want to get. And I think we'll get onto that a little bit down the road with this.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
we've got everyone, you've got it covered for whatever issues that you might have throughout your time at SARS.
Absolutely. And once again, there's lots of information on the website. So if you are thinking ahead based on your specific circumstance, we'd encourage you to check in on the website, and you can see all the different types of support that are on offer via the Student Advice and Wellbeing Centre. And I can see we have a question from somebody tuning in via YouTube, which is about if students can apply for student funding or sponsorship from Kuwait. Absolutely. We have a number of Kuwaiti students studying with us who are funded by the Kuwaiti ministry this year. And that brings us on nicely to one of our other things we were going to have a chat about, which is fees and funding. So, in terms of the main sort of fees that you want to take into account if you're thinking ahead to university and the costs associated with it, the best place again is our website. You'll find all of the updated overseas fees information for our next intake, which is September 2022, on the website in terms of both undergraduate and postgraduate. And the main thing to take into account is that at postgraduate level, our tuition fees fall into either one of three bands, different price points, depending on the specific program. So the best thing to do to get a better understanding of the tuition fees involved is to head to our website. And of course, if you have any questions, please do get in touch. But in terms of different ways to fund your studies, as I just mentioned, particularly in regards to the Middle East, we receive a number of sponsored students each year who have the financial support of their home ministries, and that includes Kuwait and countries like Saudi Arabia. And we also receive each year a number of recipients from external scholarships like Chevening and the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. In addition, we do have a number of SOAS scholarships on offer. And in terms of these SOAS scholarships, the majority of our funding opportunities pertain to master's level study. And again, if you head over to our website, the information on these scholarships, eligibility criteria, different application guidance is all up to date and changed regularly by our scholarships team. But some of the ones that are perhaps worth mentioning are things like our International Postgraduate Scholarship, which is available for students in different regions around the world. And that functions as a small fee waiver of £3,000 towards the cost of your studies. This award is due to open at the end of January for application, and it'll remain open for a few months. So if you head over to our website, you'll be able to find full details there. And as I mentioned, it's a £3,000 partial fee waiver. And this year we've got 4 awards available for students who are applying from the MENA. Some other ones that you might want to look at are things like our Anthony Dix Memorial Scholarship. And again, that has specific eligibility criteria. It applies to candidates for our LLM program, so one of our master's opportunities in the area of law. And again, it's a partial fee waiver for students from developing countries, and that includes a large number of countries within the MENA region. So again, I'd really encourage you to head over to our website if you'd like to find out more and to get specific guidance on application timeframes and eligibility criteria. And lastly, then, we come on to a topic that Imani mentioned, which is employability and careers. And we know that's at the forefront of a lot of students' minds when they're thinking about where to study, what support's available, and what are the opportunities beyond SOAS in terms of employment. So I wondered, Amani, firstly, when we talk about employment, I guess students have two questions, and that is, what are the opportunities while I'm studying, sort of part-time opportunities to help contribute towards the cost of study, and then graduate employability and beyond that. And so I wondered if you wanted to talk a little bit about the career service and perhaps your own experience within that.
Yeah. So what you'll find is that when you begin your studies at SOAS, you are sent this sort of form that you fill out, which you indicate how much you sort of know about what career you want to go into. So this can range from I have absolutely no idea what I want to do with my future to I know what I want to do and this is how I'm going to get there. Obviously, you'll find that most students don't know exactly what they want to do, which was the case with me. And so the career service can definitely help you to understand where you want to go in your career and help you to get there. As Laura said, it's sort of been put into two categories. So the jobs and the internships you can get whilst you're studying, and then the ones for after you finish your studies and sort of your career and graduate employment opportunities after that. So for during your time at university, we have something called the career zone, which is where SOAS will put up employment opportunities, whether it's part-time, whether they're internships, whether they're placement options, which you can view all of them depending on which sector you're in, what you're interested in, and how to apply. And they offer a lot of support in terms of being able to get those job opportunities. So things such as reviewing your CV, helping you do mock interviews, mock assessment centres, anything like that, just to make sure that you're in the best position to get the opportunities that you're applying for. One of the main things that is sort of outside of this, a really good way to sort of earn extra pocket money while you're studying at university, is our student ambassador scheme. This is something I personally did and I really enjoyed and recommended. And it's got me to sort of to where the position I am right now at SOAS. And this is where you represent the university at open days or to the public. So, for example, on our website, we have something called the Uni Buddy, which is where you can chat to students, and those will often be student ambassadors that are representing the university, and you can talk to them about any questions that you might have about their subjects, student life, anything like that. You can also represent the university at open days, speaking about your experience. If there are any guest lectures happening at the university, you can assist with that. It's just a really good way to obviously represent the university and also meet a lot of new people, whether they are prospective students, parents, and also other students at the university that you might not have been able to meet otherwise. And then the second half of this is sort of your graduate employment and your career and what you want to do after that. And what's really good about the career service is that it doesn't stop as soon as you graduate university. You have access to the career zone, you have access to the careers team, even after you leave university. So you can use the resources that are available even if you haven't figured out what you want to do after you graduate. And I think they can help you in so many respects in that way, which is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing to say with regards to sort of employability and what life looks like beyond graduation is that SOAS graduates go into such a wide range of careers and go on to work in really different sectors. And so I don't know, Amani, I know you're with us at SOAS now, but I don't know if you wanted to, maybe if you could comment on some of the things that your classmates are now doing, or even companies that they're working for, sort of typical places where our graduates might end up.
Yeah, of course. What's really good about science degrees, and I think humanities degrees as well, is that you're not only gaining the knowledge of the subject you're specializing in, but you're getting a lot of transferable skills, which a lot of employers look for specifically. And that can help you get a job in pretty much any sector, well, not any sector, but a lot of sectors within the working world. So, for example,
Absolutely.
I have friends that have gone on to work at places like the civil service, which is a very popular route for a lot of sort of social sciences and humanities students. The UN, even places like Deloitte, consultancy companies, banking companies, because what you'll find is that they're looking for the skills that you've learned within your degree as well as sort of the subject that you learned. So you could go work in a consultancy firm if you did an economics degree, but even if you did a sort of history or politics degree, which I think is really good. And what I think is very unique about SOAS is a lot of employers are looking for SOAS students because they offer a different perspective. I think because
Yeah.
the subjects that we do have a very non-Eurocentric and global approach, employers very much look for those kind of students to work within their companies, which is what gives us a very good advantage in the working world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to say, even beyond that, thinking about alumni support, is that there's also lots of further support and ongoing engagement there. We have, I think, about 35,000 um, global alumni in terms of the size of the community. And we also have a number of ambassadors who are in region, who are in countries across the MENA, and we'd love to connect with you. So if you would like help to contact them, then you're so welcome to get in touch. And we would love to facilitate that and to make sure that you can get the perspective of someone in your region who's been through it before. And I think finally, then, just to make sure we've got enough time for questions, if we just want to chat a little bit about terms of in terms of applying to SOAS. And if you do think SOAS is the place for you, then there is a wide range of courses, as I said, and with that, a wide range of entry requirements. So if you're applying from the MENA, first of all, a great place to find the entry requirement information is our main course pages, our main program pages on the website. And to support that, we also have specific country pages for your region that will give further insight into typical equivalencies that we would accept as standard. And so for undergraduate, our courses range from 3As at A level or equivalent through to ABB at A level. And again, you can find lots of equivalent information on our website. And at postgraduate, we look for students to have at least the equivalent of a UK low second class honours. And again, there's much more information on the website that can help you understand what that means for your country that you're applying from and your particular academic background. I can see a question from somebody watching on YouTube, which is about can they apply for a second master's? Of course, students join us from a range of backgrounds. They will be pursuing different study levels and options based on their and professional background. There are some things to be aware of in terms of visa requirements if you have completed previous master's study already in the UK on a student visa, for example. But out with that, there's no specific restrictions. You wouldn't be disadvantaged in any way because you already hold a master's from an admissions perspective. And then we also have a question which is about PhD information, another question that's come up on YouTube. And again, we have dedicated information on our website. We haven't touched on it too much, but there's lots of information in terms of the different research areas available at SOAS and a step-by-step guide advise on how to apply. The main thing, I can see there's a little question about contacting supervisors and things. And the main thing to say is that contacting a supervisor before you apply is not a hard and fast prerequisite at SOAS. We encourage it. It's great if you can approach potential supervisors beforehand to discuss potential research topics and ideas, but it's not um, a hard and fast prerequisite to submitting your application. But for full details, I'd encourage you to go to your website, and you're very, very welcome to get in touch via the email addresses that you can see coming up on the screen. In terms of English language, I know that's often a question that pops up, and generally speaking, our programs look for 6.5 overall in IELTS, with 6.5 in every subscore to qualify for direct entry to both undergraduate and postgraduate. If you're considering applying for International Foundation with your National Thanawea exams, then there's a slightly lower English requirement there, because that program is designed to help you reach the required level for undergraduate study within the UK, and you can again find full details on our website. And in addition to IELTS, we do accept a range of tests, which again are all listed on the website, along with alternative qualifications. And for those students who fall short of the direct entry requirements, we have a range of pre-sessional and in-sessional English courses that can support you to prepare and improve your language level for future study. And once you've submitted your application, you can expect to hear an update on the outcome within about 4 to 6 weeks. So if you are considering applying to SOAS, it's worth bearing in mind that it can take about 4 to 6 weeks to hear a response. And what that does is give our admissions team the time to review your application in full and to review all of the elements and different documents that you've submitted. Just as a quick summary, our undergraduate applications come through UCAS. So if you wish to apply for undergraduate study, that's through UCAS, and you can continue to apply all the way through to the end of June in the main cycle. And then our postgraduate applications and our undergraduate international foundation are via our website. So those are the two main things to be aware of, but there's lots of support available both from SOAS directly or from partners like SI UK who are hosting the session. So if you have any questions about applying at all, we would love for you to get in touch. I think we've covered most of the questions that have come in during the session. And so, Amani, I just wondered before we wrap things up if there was any sort of information you wanted to highlight in terms of ways that students can visit us or connect to SOAS moving forward.
Yeah, of course. Like Laura said, a lot of the information that we have is available on our website. We also have on the homepage our UniBuddy platform, so you can chat to undergraduate, postgraduate students in your subject department, or just in general if you have any questions about student life or how to apply, anything like that. They're more than happy to have a conversation with you if you want to get any information on sort of the student experience. We also have a number of sort of open days and offer holder days, both virtual and in person. So those are really good ways to learn about the subject or talk to any of the academics that are in your department. And it's a really good way just to hear about that and see the kind of students that might be joining you as well. One of the most important things for me when I was applying was going to the open day and seeing the campus. Obviously, right now in COVID, it might not be possible, but what we do have is a really excellent virtual tour that takes you through every building in SOAS and gives you key facts about buildings. So it's just a really good way to be able to see the space that you might be in for the next 3 years, 4 years, however long your degree might be. And again, that is available on the website, so I would highly recommend checking that out.
Absolutely. There's really so many ways that you can still engage, even when it's a bit restricted or you might be facing barriers to get into the UK and exploring. And if you are here, remember that you can book on to our smaller scale campus tours, like we mentioned. Those are up and running. and working within the guidelines to make sure that everybody feels safe and comfortable and able to explore the campus and just to get a little bit of a flavour of what it might be like to study at SOAS. But I think we've covered all of our questions. Hopefully, we've given you a little insight into SOAS. And as I mentioned, we would love to hear from you. So please do get in touch either with us directly or via SIUK. But thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you the best of luck wherever you're applying.